Tonight on the news, Nigeria Association of Women Journalists in Ondo State screens no fewer than 100 persons for cancer. Lagos and Imo State governor meets to broker peace between Yoruba and Igbos. Kidnappers kill church minister in Ogun community. And from the foreign scene, gunman shoots dead 2 persons and injures 28 others in US city. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the news at 7 on Osrc television. I am Oyewumi Ayinibera. Going by the adage that health is wealth, the Nigeria Association of Women Journalists NAWOJ Ondo State Council has embarked on a screening exercise for women on breast and cervical cancer. In collaboration with a non-governmental organization, 100K Club and the support of Quitters Health Organization said no fewer than 100 women across the state were screened on cervical and breast cancer in order to know their status. Omoshilola Adesoyajayi now reports.
Cervical cancer, which is caused primarily by the human papilloma virus, HPV, the most common viral infection of the reproductive tract, is considered one of the most preventable cancers. Also, a report from the World Health Organization noted that 90% of deaths from cervical cancer occurs in low and middle-income countries where cancer screenings and routine HPV vaccinations are not available. It is against this backdrop and to ensure a healthy living that the Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ in Ondo State, organized a one-day cancer screening and treatment for women in the state. The association, in collaboration with 100K Club and the support of Quitters Health Organization, screened no fewer than 100 women, both in the media profession and society at large, for cervical and breast cancer. While educating the women on the cause and prevention of cervical cancer, the co-founder of 100K Club, Dr. Wale Ogunlano, who decried high mortality rates among young women, advised the female gender on regular checkups for early detection.
Any woman from 40 years and above living in a developing country like Nigeria is at risk of both cervical and breast cancer. Breast cancer being number 1.
Also, the leader of the medical team, Dr. Adewumi Babatunde, sensitized the women on the processes of the screening and urged them to maximize the opportunity.
It does not have any radiation, it's not hot, it does not pain. This is a very simple procedure and everybody will be happy at the end of the day.
The chairperson of NAWOJ in Ondo State, Mrs. Tola Gbadamoshi, who emphasized on the need for women to always find time to care for their health, noted that the move is to increase awareness of cervical cancer and improve on the medical services for women.
We female journalists will report health. At the end of the day, for us to have time for ourselves, especially in our health wise, we don't really have time. So this is an opportunity. We see that we should bring women together. We journalists, we should come together, have time for ourselves together today.
Some of the beneficiaries appreciated NAWOJ for the initiative, which they say will go a long way towards improving health and well-being of the female folk.
Well, I must say it's the right step for NAWOJ to be doing this, at least for women journalists. I believe this will go a long way to enlighten women the more, at least that they should know that it is necessary for them to do this yearly.
It's an eye-opener for even some of us that are learned, don't even know, only few of us know our status. I would say this is commendable because a lot of women are dying every day because they don't know their status when it comes to breast cancer or cervical cancer.
We all know what the health system is like now, and somebody is coming up with a free program considering the breast cancer thing, the cervical cancer things, and these are more of the common cancers amongst women, and now they are bringing it for free. It's worth an applause.
Others charged women to always make judicious use of such opportunity to know their status.
It's not something to be scared of. It's better to know your health and know you're okay than to just keep assuming. So I would advise that you come out and participate in something like this for the betterment of your health.
With the recent initiative by NAWOJ in Ondo State and other global efforts, it is hoped that the target of World Health Organization to end cervical cancer by 2030 will be achieved.
End cervical cancer in Nigeria, 100K Club, Quinta Health, Ondo Nawa.
Omoshiliola Adesoye Ajayi, Osrc News.
Meanwhile, following speculations that a ministerial list would be submitted to the Senate for confirmation this week and for the cabinet to be in place later this month, a former Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Mrs. Pauline Tallen, has called on the president to fulfill the 35% affirmative action promised women during his presidential campaign. She made the appeal in Abuja at an award night organized to celebrate outstanding women in society. Tallen, who is also a former deputy governor of Plateau State, said from the president's past records, she was optimistic that Nigerian women would be given the pride of place in his administration. She noted that women were an integral part of any economy and should be allowed to contribute their quota to nation building. The former National Executive Council member added that with Nigerian women being about 50% or more in terms of population, there was nothing wrong if they were given more than 35% slot in government. Determined to end the frosty relationship between Igbo and Yoruba in Lagos, Governors Hope Uzodinma of Imo State and his Lagos counterpart, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, have set up a committee to broker peace. It was agreed that the Peace and Reconciliation Committee be expanded to settle and douse the increasing tension between the two vibrant groups. The governors resolved on the suspension of further demolition at Alaba International Market to ensure that no building that was not in the contravention is demolished. They further agreed that compensation will be paid for any wrong demolition in Alaba International Market, while taxes, rates, and demand notices levied on Igbo real estate developers will be reviewed to ensure they are not outrageously prohibitive, punitive, and seemingly targeted at them. Power consumers have expressed relief after it was confirmed that electricity distribution companies had not implemented the proposed hike in the tariff payable for electricity nationwide. Some power distribution firms had announced that last Sunday, that there would be a hike in tariff from July 1. They, however, backtracked after widespread criticism as they stated that the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission had yet to approve the proposed hike. The development caused apprehension among power consumers as many prepaid consumers rushed to buy more units in their meters while anticipating a possible hike in tariff. The last tariff increase took effect in January this year, implying that the tariff that was paid by power consumers between January and June would be reviewed, according to Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. The Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU has faulted the decision of federal government on the dissolution of Governing Council of Federal Universities in the country. The union said the move was inimical and a major setback towards the growth and development of university education in Nigeria. Chairman of University of Jos chapter of the union, Chris Yiguan, condemned the move, insisting that such a trend, if allowed to continue, would cripple the university system. According to Yiguan, the dissolution contravened the act establishing federal universities, adding that it would stagnate the progress of the institutions. The National Universities Commission, on June 22, announced the dissolution of Governing Council of all federal universities in the country. And the National Universities Commission has approved 33 new undergraduate programs for Bamidele Olumiluwa University of Education, Science and Technology, Ikere-Ekiti. According to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Adeoluwa, the approval followed visits by a team of experts from NUC to the university to assess its capability to run the proposed programs with respect to human and material resources and the resultant clean bill of health given the institution. Adeoluwa said the university now runs a total of 78 degree programs. He described the approval a welcome development and a testament of the institution's avowed commitment to excellence and qualitative education. You're still watching Osrc News at 7. After the break, we bring you more stories. Please stay with us.
Hey, Iskilu, báwo la ti fẹ́ sanwó ni?
Farabalẹ̀.
1,000. We go wash plate tire o.
Farabalẹ̀ now.
Madam, èló lówó wa?
Brother, na 3,005.
Màá fún yín ní owó òpè káàdì Glo ẹlẹ́gbẹ̀rún 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Bring your phone.
Ha! 10,000.
1,000 naira credit. Now you dey turn to 10,000.
No. All of us don't know about Glo Berekete. Ní ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá nísìnyí.
Ṣé o ti gbọ́? Ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá ló máa gbà lórí iyekíye tó o bá rà sórí ohun ìpè Glo Berekete 10 times rẹ.
I told you. Na wa go tell.
Àdúrà gbogbo ènìyàn wípé kódò nílé lórí.
Àjọyọ̀ tó fi ṣẹran wà wọ́n ní ká sọ fún yín wípé.
Èmi ló kàn.
Agbọ́dọ̀ ti gbélé àpòmọ̀dé. Èmi mà ní rẹ́kọ̀.
Àjọ nílé nínú ọdún táwa yìí.
Ti máa lè mọ́lẹ̀ nínú ọdún táwa yìí.
Ti máa ṣe lé ńlá nínú ọdún táwa yìí.
Nínú olórí rẹ̀ tó máa gbàgbọ́ ọdún.
Tó máa di láńlọ́ọ̀dù tá a nílé lórí.
Tó máa jàǹfààní 30% discount.
Tó máa gbẹ̀bú ọdún rẹ̀.
Oh yes, it's your turn to become a landlord this Ilia season. Take advantage of the Adon Homes Super Salah promo and enjoy 30% discount on all estates. Get 2 big ramps and other exciting gift items when you subscribe.
Who wants to tell me the answer? Good. This way.
I give my soul. You get my time and dedication.
Hey, stop that.
You know, get waiting for life. Where I know fit do. Cause all the dream where we don't dream must to come true. It must to show for you. Cause it's sure for me. Together we will ride against the mountains away. So make you dare with me. Cause I dare for you. Together we will ride against the mountains away.
Teach the advanced way with Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
Thank you very much for rejoining us. You can watch us live on our website www.osrc.ng or follow us on Facebook, OSRC TV, and on YouTube you can subscribe to our channel, OSRC TV Ondo. And now to the rest of the news. The World Bank says the decision by previous administrations in Nigeria to subsidize the price of petrol aimed at the development of e-mobility and use of alternative vehicles like electric minibuses, two-wheelers, and three-wheelers. The bank, in a document published to facilitate dialogue on urban and rural clean energy e-mobility strategies that reduce air pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions, stated that the funding gulped 4.39 trillion naira in 2022. According to the bank, e-mobility is a general term for the development of electric-powered driven trains, designed to shift vehicle design away from the use of fossil fuels. The World Bank stated further that with the removal of fuel subsidy, the introduction of e-buses should be supported by all. Special Advisor to the President on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Dele Alake, says Bola Tinubu was ready to lead the charge on the local and foreign scenes as the rest of Africa looked up to Nigeria. He said Tinubu recognized that other African nations were taking cues from Nigeria in terms of leadership, stressing that the president was prepared to set up to the challenge of providing a befitting example. Alake gave the assurance after President Umaru Embalo of Guinea-Bissau visited the president at his Ikoyi residence in Lagos. He noted that both men met privately, but President Embalo seized the opportunity to express his solidarity and willingness to cooperate with Nigeria under the leadership of Tinubu. The visit also allowed Embalo, who is currently the chairman of the ECOWAS authorities, of heads of states and government to reinforce the fraternal relations between Nigeria and Guinea-Bissau. Socioeconomic Rights and Equitability Project SEREP has urged President Bola Tinubu to use his good office and leadership position to urgently publish details of spending of about 400 billion naira so far saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol. SEREP urged him to provide details of the plans on how subsequent savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol, including specific projects on which the funds will be spent and the mechanism that have been put in place to ensure that any such savings are not embezzled, misappropriated, or diverted into private pockets. According to reports, the federal government has saved 400 billion naira within the 4 weeks following the implementation of the policy on the removal of payment of subsidy on petrol. The Board of Directors, African Development Bank, AFDB, has approved a loan of $115 million to support a major road rehabilitation project in Abia State. AFDB said the project will see to the rehabilitation of roads, erosion control infrastructure, and preparation of solid waste management facility in the state capital, Umuahia, and the commercial hub, Aba. Abia State Government will provide $23.8 million in counterpart funding for compensation to people affected by the project and implementation of a resettlement action plan. The project, which is expected to be completed in 2029, covers a distance of 248.46 kilometers. The need for religious houses to engage their communities in humanitarian services as the world battles various challenges has been stressed. Christian leaders who engage Osrc in Accra, Ondo State capital, said it is in line with the biblical injunction for society to feel the impact of this church in the environment through evangelism, service to mankind, among others. Omoriola Ungbiji has details.
Prominent among the importance of the church in any community are worship to God, teaching of the Word of God, fellowship with one another, saving lives from everlasting death through evangelism and service to God and humanity. It is the hope of any community harboring a church to enjoy the peace, love, and the light that accompanied the establishment of church as commanded in the Bible.
The church now is to build the individual for them to be useful in the community, and whereby when they are godly people, to teach them the morals, the social, the spiritual things that they need to know, how to relate their relationship among themselves, within the family, and even outside, which comprises the community, and whereby it will make a community be more peaceful.
According to Primate Sunday Ojo-Olakpe of Christ Living Church, Akure, the presence of church in society should be a total blessing for any community and not otherwise.
In Christendom, part of our preaching is to help the less privileged ones. not only our members alone. It's part of our part of the word of the Lord that we should be of assistance to our fellow human being. That's why it says we should be our brother's keeper. Any Christian whom you find not doing that, I don't think the service is full before the Lord.
Dr. Oluwagbemiga Odewale of the Redeemed Christian Church of God maintained that engagement of the church in any community service is significant because it helps society to know the love of Christ as God is love.
How do we show the world that God is love through Jesus Christ if we don't engage in community service? So community service is very, very significant because it reflects the great Christ we preach to the world.
To General Superintendent of the Acts of Apostles International Church, Prophet Zacchaeus Adeboriota, any church that refuses to put society into consideration is not following the true doctrine of God.
We are the light of the world. In another verse, it says, we are the salt of the world. If there's church in any community, the community is lucky to have church. The church must bring light and salt, sweeted thing.
Especially now that the whole world is battling a series of challenges, it is expected of religious groups, in line with the instruction of God, to engage their communities in kindness, prayers, and the true teaching of the word to cushion the effects in them. Omoriola Hungbiji, Osrc News.
Meanwhile, Bishop of Sabato's Catholic Diocese Matthew Kuka has called on the federal government to enforce the provision for the freedom of religion and worship as enshrined in the nation's constitution and other laws of the land. According to Bishop Kuka, this can be done by providing adherents of different faiths in the country with places of worship in the various federal government establishments across the nation. The bishop who spoke after the inaugural mass at the Catholic chaplaincy of the 119 Composite Group of the Nigerian Air Force Sokoto emphasized the importance of these places of worship that enable personnel to freely practice their religion. He said most federal governments, universities, medical centers, and other federal government establishments have no provisions for places of worship for Christians, especially in many parts of northern Nigeria, which is in breach of the constitutional provisions. In Ogun State, gunmen have killed a pastor of a church in Abuleori, Obafemi Owode local government area of the state. The gunmen also abducted 7 worshippers after invading the church. According to the commander of the Ogun State So Safe Corps, Soji Gonzalo in Abeokuta, officers have rescued the 7 church members and killed one of the kidnappers during an encounter after the abduction. Gonzalo added that the joint team of the police and the So Safe Corps have launched a manhunt for the fleeing suspected kidnappers. In the U.S., 2 people have been killed and another 28 injured in the U.S. city of Baltimore. Our spokesman said 3 people remained in a critical condition. The incident happened in the Brooklyn Homes area in the south of the city in the state of Maryland, where people had gathered for an event called Brooklyn Day. Fox News reports that 20 to 30 shots were fired. There are no details yet about the shooters. Tens of thousands of police have been deployed in cities across France ready for a potential night of rioting after the funeral of a teenager of North African descent whose shooting by police sparked nationwide unrest. President Emmanuel Macron postponed a state visit to Germany that was due to begin today to handle the war's crisis for his leadership since the Yellow Vest protest paralyzed much of France in late 2018. For more on that, let's join Akintunde Akinshimola.
French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said at a press conference that for consecutive nights, the country will mobilize 45,000 police officers in an effort to quell riots in major cities and suburbs over the police killing of a 17-year-old near Paris earlier in the week. Arrests have totaled more than 2,000 the past night, forcing President Emmanuel Macron to postpone his trip to Germany. The funeral for the teenager killed, Nahel M., was on Saturday. Meanwhile, the Interior Minister had a warning for protesters.
I think that everyone has understood that the state will not back down. I think, and let me say here, that the message given to parents is very important.
Local authorities all over the country announced bans on demonstrations and ordered public transport to stop running in the evenings. The shooting of the teen of a North African descent that was caught on video has reignited long-standing complaints by poor and racially mixed urban communities of police violence and racism. The latest uprising is the worst crisis for Macron's leadership since the Yellow Vest protests, which paralyzed much of France in late 2018. Akintunde Akinshemola for Osrc News.
And that concludes the news tonight. But before we go, a quick look at the top stories. We told you that no fewer than 100 women have benefited from the cancer screening exercise put together by the Nigerian Association of Women Journalists in Ondo State. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State and his Imo counterpart, Hope Uzodinma, have met to broker peace between the Yorubas and Igbos in Lagos. Kidnappers have stormed a church in Abuleri, Ogun State, killing a minister and abducting 7 worshippers. And from the foreign scene, we told you that gunmen have shot dead 2 persons in the U.S. city of Baltimore and injured 28 others. And that's the news tonight. Thank you very much for your time. Good evening.